Hello everybody, welcome to this exciting and easy lesson on accounting. Today we are going to be looking at the break-even analysis, the break-even point. Okay, so let's quickly get into this. What is the break-even point? BOP. A break-even point is a point where our business is neither making a profit or a loss. At this point, we are saying that the total of our revenue will be equal to expenditure. The break-even point is the point where revenue is equal to expenditure. So we are saying at this point, the money that we get from selling our products should tally with the expenses that we incur in either production or in either the cost of obtaining those goods. So that's the break-even point. So the break-even point is mainly used in accounting to determine products that should be taken into the organization, or to determine projects that will be needed to make some additional income for the business. So we are saying a break-even point is a point where revenue is equal to expenditure. So in cost accounting, we calculate break-even point using a formula. This formula is goes like break-even point BOP is equal to total fixed costs divided by selling price minus variable cost. So this total fixed cost is the cost for the whole organization, the total fixed cost for the whole organization. We are talking about rentals and other expenses which are just time-based. They don't matter with the level of production or with the level of sales that we have made. So the selling price is the selling price per product, is the product selling price, the individual product selling price. And the variable costs, they are also individual variable costs per individual product. So the break-even point will always give you a value in units. So always remember that the break-even point that you calculate using this method will be in units, not in revenue. It will always be in product units that you will be dealing with. Okay, so this is the break-even point. So the break-even point is sometimes explained with a graph. So let's try to put a graph which shows the break-even point. Let me just wrap this and get some more space. Okay, so the break-even point graph is very much similar to other graphs that we use in mathematics and statistics and other similar subjects. Okay, so we've got our graph here. On the x-axis, we put the units. This can be units produced or units sold. Here we put our revenue, so I'll just put the $sign there. Okay, so there are three main lines that we have to put on this break-even graph. The first line is the fixed cost line. The fixed cost line is the straight line on the break-even graph. Why is this line straight? It's because fixed costs, they don't change. Fixed costs, they don't change even if you produce so many items. We are assuming that the salary of a manager will remain the same even if the manager produces 10,000 units or 5,000 units, the salary remains the same. So the salary is part of those fixed costs. So the fixed cost line is a straight line. Let's just label it FC, fixed cost line. It's a straight line that does not change. Okay, so another line which we have to put is the variable cost line. Remember, we have variable costs and fixed costs in as part of our production costs, or as part of our operating expenditures, or as part of our organizational expenditures. Okay, so the variable costs, when you are not producing anything, they will be at zero. The variable costs, when you are not producing or when you are not selling anything, we do not incur them. Okay, so the variable costs at this point, let me just label this point 0. When you are producing nothing, the variable costs will be nothing, but the fixed costs, there will always be something for fixed costs. Okay, let me just put numbers here. I'll put 48,000 for fixed costs. So at this point, at point 0, the fixed costs, they are already at $48,000, but the variable cost there is nothing. So the line for variable costs starts from just over here. When we start producing, the variable cost starts to increase, and it increases and increases as we go. Okay, so the variable cost line, it shows total cost for the organization. Total cost. This line is a variable cost line, but from this point 0 up to this point, it shows the total cost. So the variable costs will be within this margin. This is the margin of variable cost. Variable cost. This area is variable cost. This area is fixed costs. Okay, so from this point up to this point, it's total cost. From this point up to here, it's total cost. So the difference between total cost and fixed cost is variable cost. This layer, this margin, it's variable cost, and this margin, it's fixed cost. Okay, so that's the difference between variable costs and fixed costs. They both form total costs, but variable costs, they are only accumulated or incurred when you are producing or when we are having some sort of an activity within our organization. Okay, so fixed costs, they remain the same. Then we go to another line, a line that is very important, that is the revenue line. Okay, so we are saying at point 0, we are not producing anything or we are not selling anything, so we don't have revenue. Okay, so we draw a line from there, from point 0. The revenue line is going there, it's going there, it's going there. Okay, and it keeps going and going there. At this point where the revenue line meets with the total cost line, it's called the break-even point, BOP. This point where the revenue meets total cost. Remember, we said when revenue is equal to expenditure, we have break-even point. So break-even point is when this revenue line meets with the expenditure line, this one. So this is the break-even point. Okay, so the revenue line, when we are not producing anything, we have nothing, so there is no revenue. Okay, so this point where the revenue meets total cost, we have to put something to mark our break-even point. In this case, I'll just put maybe, let's say, 8,000 units at this point. So in this example, our break-even point is at 8,000 units. That is where the revenue line meets with the total expenditure line. Okay, our fixed cost line, there it is, a flat line. Our total cost line, there it is going up. So this is the graph which shows the break-even point. It's very easy, very much easier. Okay, so for now I'll try to put some figures and try to make some calculations into this. Okay, so now let's try to calculate the break-even point. Like we said earlier, break-even point is equal to total fixed cost over selling price minus variable cost per unit. Okay, the total fixed costs, they are the total for the whole organizations, but the selling price is the selling price for individual items. Okay, the variable cost again is the variable cost per individual items. Okay, so let's put some figures into this. For example, let's say an organization has total fixed costs of 10,000 and the selling price per unit of item, maybe let's just say it's $200, and the variable costs, they are $100. In this case, our break-even point will be 10,000 divided by 200 minus 100. So it will be 10,000 divided by 100, which will give us 100. So in this case, our break-even point will be 100 units. Remember, the break-even point that you calculate from this formula is always in units. Okay, now let's move on to another example. Now this other example that I want to put, it's an example that you are not given these things as they normally appear. Sometimes they like to temper around with this formula because this thing is actually too easy. So in an exam they will try to change things so that things they don't look so normal, so that you get confused and lose some marks. Okay, so I'll look at an example where we are not given these figures as they normally appear. Okay, so that we see how do we temper around with the break-even formula to get other elements of the formula. Okay, so we said BEOP is equal to total fixed costs over selling price minus variable cost. These two elements are per unit. So always remember these two elements are per unit, and the amount that you get there is in units. Okay, so let's look at this formula. Selling price minus variable cost. Okay, let me write this. There's something called contribution. Contribution is equal to selling price minus variable cost. So what we are saying is, if contribution is equal to selling price minus variable cost, break-even point is also equal to total fixed cost divided by contribution. So what I'm trying to say is we can cancel all these other things and try to make things shorter and write contribution per unit. Contribution per unit. So what I'm saying, the break-even point is equal to total fixed costs over contribution per unit. Contribution per unit is also equal to total selling price, is also equal to selling price minus variable cost. Okay, so we have this now. Is the first stage that we have used. We have tried to change the formula. Let's try to change again the formula and try to see what we can get. Okay, so the break-even point is equal to total fixed costs over selling price minus variable costs. Here we have an example where we are given all the other things except for selling price. So those who know mathematics, it's actually very easy for us to find one component when we are given others. We simply make that the missing component the subject of the formula and try to come up with things in an easy manner. Okay, so let's try to do this. I'll make things easier for everybody so that we can understand. Now we are given break-even point as 8,000 units. We are also given variable costs per unit as $9. Then we also have total fixed costs as 48,000. Okay, so with these elements we've got the break-even point, which is this one, 8,000 units, variable cost, which is this one, fixed cost, which is this one. So let's try to play around the formula and try to get the missing component of selling price per unit. So I'll erase this part so that we can have some space. Okay, there we go. Our formula, we say break-even point, which is 8,000 units, is equal to fixed costs, which are 48,000, divided by selling price. Now I'll just put an S denomination for selling price, minus variable costs, which are $9. Okay, so I'll put these ones in brackets. Remember, they are always in brackets. Okay, now let's work this one out and try to see how much do we come up with as the selling price in this scenario. Okay, the thing is we have to make S the subject of the formula. Okay, if you have done equations, it's actually the most basic components of equation that we can do. Okay, so this is it. For us to get rid of S minus 9, we have to multiply this side by S minus 9 in a bracket, and also this side we multiply times S minus 9 in a bracket. Okay, this is it. So this side, if we multiply this, we will cancel this one and we remain with $48,000 on that side. Then this side we will remain with 8,000 times S, which is S 8,000 minus 9 times 8,000, which is 72,000. Okay, so S 8,000 minus 72,000 is equal to 48,000. Okay, we are still trying to make S the subject of the formula. Okay, so we remain with, if we take this 72,000 to that other side, it becomes a positive. It has a negative side here, a negative sign here. So if it goes there, it has a positive. It becomes a positive. That's the law of equations. Okay, so this one we take it to that side, we'll come up with 48,000 plus 72,000, which will be equal to S 8,000. Okay, so let's move on. Going down, 48,000 plus 72,000, we get 120,000. So 120,000 is equal to S 8,000. Then S will be equal to 120,000 divided by 8,000. The laws of equations, if we take a figure from the other side to the other side, its sign changes. Okay, so 8,000 it's a multiplying factor this side. If it goes that side, it becomes a division factor. So okay, now it's now dividing 120,000, then this S remains like that. So S becomes $15. Okay, as easy as this, our selling price per unit is $15. So we've tampered around with the formula for the break-even point, and it's very easy. Okay, that's it. Let me try to wrap this one. Now, if you are preparing for an exam, which is or accounting exam or cost accounting exam, or that can be a finance examination, there might be some tricks that they will try to play around with your mind, and those tricks are very easy. So you just need to know those tricks. These tricks will make a very hard confusion for you. So what we will do, I'll just try to put some tricks that they do just for you to be confused, because it's an exam. They want to eliminate you from passing accounting, but I won't let them do that. Okay, this is the break-even graph. Okay, this is the break-even graph. There are some things that you have to know. At this point, at the break-even point, revenue is equal to total cost. So in an exam, they may just give you a total cost figure at the break-even point. Then they ask you how much was revenue there. But if for you, you now know revenue is equal to total cost, you just plug that figure and place it where it's supposed to be. Okay, that's the first trick there. The second trick is the gradient of this revenue line, of this line. The gradient of this line. The gradient of this line is equal to contribution per unit. The gradient of this line is equal to contribution. Always know that the gradient for this line is the contribution per unit. So if you are in an examination, you don't need to waste your time trying to calculate contribution per unit. If you are given the gradient of the line, always know that it's a very simple trick, and they might ask you that in a multiple choice question and you waste your time. Okay, again, the gradient of this total cost line, is the variable cost per unit. Gradient of the total cost line is the variable cost per unit. Always know that. Don't ever make a mistake or waste your time in an examination. The gradient of the total cost line is the variable cost per unit. That's it.